thank everybody, our friends from the media and the press, for joining us this morning. I know it's kind of, there's some rains outside, and this is BGC, so traffic here is not really 24/7, but especially during this time of the day, traffic is really bad. So even with that, I truly appreciate you being with us. Also would like to welcome some of our colleagues from Sears, and also the Yash is actually flown in from Singapore, arrived early this morning, just to be with us today. So thank you very much. Okay. So I think the question I would like to answer first is, why the Philippines? I mean, a lot of organizations have been setting up, global organizations have been finding ways in terms of where to set up their businesses. And for me, to Yash point, when I was still with another company, I was with Google before, and Sears was actually one of our first partners who's actually doing these kinds of services. My most question to Sears during the time is, why are you making these investments in the Philippines? This is the same lens that most hyperscalers are actually seeing. So when we say hyperscalers, these are the likes of Microsoft, an AWS, or even a Google. So obviously, and I think everybody knows this, in most of your conversations with other tech companies, you've seen that the Philippines is one of the fastest growing cloud market. Ask any hyperscaler in the Philippines, and they will always tell you that one of their biggest customers in the entire Southeast Asia is based in the Philippines. So that's what's accelerating their growth in the country. The second one is, of course, revenue in the public cloud market. This is data coming from Statista, that the expectation for cloud services is actually around 1.3 billion this year. Now, what's driving this? Remember the pandemic? Remember these times when everybody was trying to drive a lot of digital transformation? It hasn't ended yet. It's still ongoing. Some of the organizations actually started doing this, have not really fully achieved their goals even up till now. So that is a continued growth. And at the end of the day, if you think about what kind of drove the whole pandemic in terms of the differences on us as users, have you now experienced the difference in terms of how you buy things? Before, you would just go to SM and location, go to the nearest mall and buy the item. Now, yesterday was 9/9, so I don't know if you're really done your shopping at Lazada or Shopee, but that's actually how you do it now. You do a lot of online transactions. So it's the same model, it's the same concept for most organizations that are still undergoing this whole digital transformation. The continued path in terms of coming up with a differentiated digital service. Infrastructure service dominates the market still, at least $500 million forecasted for this year. Again, what's driving this? Have you heard of Gen AI? I'm sure you have. So, and it's the biggest buzzword for, even when I was in Google, the biggest buzzword for all organizations. Let's talk about Gen AI, let's give you the use cases for Gen AI. But if you think about driving a Gen AI use case to a productivity environment, isn't that all about data? Remember the times that it's garbage in, garbage out? I may have the right initiative, but if I don't have the right data, then nothing. So classic example for me, I won't mention the telco anymore. I'm a customer of one telco. I have 5 mobile postpaid accounts. Postpaid is for my daughters and for my wife, under my name. I also have 2 fiber connections from this telco. But I tell you, even if I probably spend a lot of money monthly paying this telco, they would cut my mobile line if I miss 200 pesos worth of payment. Because they don't know me. They don't know me as a single customer. Because they still have the data, but they haven't been able to consolidate all of this data. So that's what's driving this whole infrastructure migration. You have to put it somewhere in the cloud so that actually I can make sense of it. Even if I think about AI and Gen AI, if I don't have it in a cloud environment, it will not work. Obviously, the surge in public cloud adoption is still driven by a lot of the SMEs and MSMEs. Back in Google, we were having sessions with DTI in terms of how to support smaller organizations to be digitally competitive. Cloud is the great equalizer for all organizations to drive digital transformation. Why? Because remember, in the past, if you're an on-premise world, your capability to deliver tech services is based on the amount of IT budget you have. If I have $1 million a year for an IT budget, then I can buy the best machine, the best software, the best license, etc. But with cloud, it's pretty much an equalizer because the same the service that a telco or a bank will be using can be the same service that a mom and pop shop can actually use. There's no differentiation. A storage service, an AI service, a data service is the same service that would probably a small mom and pop shop will be using. So that's also what's driving the majority of this cloud adoption. And of course, the government support. I don't know if you've heard about the Philippines first cloud first policy from the Department of ICT. And banks, I mean, the opening up of licenses for banks to really set up more digital banks is there. And not just that, aside from the digital banks, BSP has actually given, I think, some 40 plus banks the approval to use some of the cloud services because, of course, we have this policy on data privacy or PII information. So a lot of the banks are now embracing in terms of how do I start moving majority of my core services to a cloud native environment. This is data coming from Google in partnership with Temasek. It's a 2023 data. It's just showing in terms of what is on the flip side. I mean, I've been talking about enterprises, but at the end of the day, enterprises' behavior is driven by the consumer behavior. And on the consumer side, the data is showing that there's going to be at least an upwards of 35 billion GMV. GMV means gross merchandise value, the amount of transactions that you normally do online. By 2025, largely fueled by e-commerce. Remember my example on 99, that's just one of those things. And obviously e-commerce, there's a forecasted jump of around 21% by 2025. Transport and food is there. Interesting in online travel, remember the revenge travel? It happened 2022 to 2023, the surge an 88% increase. Though the revenge travel is not there as it was before, still we're seeing some 18% increase. So what's our ambition? Our ambition in the Philippines is to be the preferred technology partner for organizations to drive technology-led business transformation. Technology. Just to embrace what Yash mentioned, even when I was still working for Google, my biggest challenge is that still most organizations were making so much investments on the technology side, but they are short to realize the business value. That's why there's a number of, I can discuss it on another slide, a number of what we call cloud repatriation. These are organizations who actually ventured in the cloud early days, who have now made a decision that let me go back on-premise. So that's something that we would like to address. We would like to also make sure that it's a solutions-led practice or outcome-based practice. So just to put more details, what makes us different? I'm sure you've covered other tech companies who says that we're the best in this, we're the best in that. We kind of offer the whole end-to-end solution. We have all the specializations. But I think these are the things that is clear from a serious point of view, what that makes us different. And I'll start with the challenges. As I already mentioned a while ago, the unachieved vision of IT in terms of cloud adoption. I've been selling cloud for more than 10 years now. Prior to Google, I was 7 years in Google, leading the Google Cloud business for the Philippines, and there was a point I was doing it for Vietnam and Thailand. Prior to Google, I was active with Microsoft. I was there for almost 9 years, managing the enterprise and public sector business. So I would say that I have seen it since inception in terms of cloud services. But I tell you that every customer I spoke to, they would say that 70% of their investment is staying on-premise. So why is that? I mean, after these big promises of the cloud is the best thing that will ever happen to your organization, still 80% or 70% of these companies are using on-premise. And it's a fact. When I was talking to some of the resellers on the hardware side, I was always telling them, so how's your business? Is it still growing? Yeah, it's still growing. HP, IBM, Dell are still selling more machines than ever. So which means it's there. It's in the data centers. So the other one, the challenge is that there's still multiple vendors and partners. If you look at the landscape of an organization, if you ask a CIO, how many partners do you normally work with? And they would give you more than a dozen vendors in their organization. Oh, I have a partner who's great in infrastructure. I have a partner who's great in data. I have a partner who does AI for me. I have a partner who does the software engineering for me, the development, etc. But if you imagine what's the outcome that these organizations wanted, tahi-tahi lahat to eh. These are all interconnected. I go back to the Gen AI example. You cannot have a great Gen AI example if you don't have the data. You cannot have a great data example if you don't have the right infrastructure modernization, etc. So it's all connected. But still, there are multiple vendors that had to do this for organization. You can change that. This one looks better. All right. And of course, the delayed realization in terms of these investments. I've worked back in my Microsoft and Google days, I've been part of large transformation initiatives coming from the telcos and the banks and the retailers. Name it, I've worked with most large organizations. And they normally pay a lot of money. I mean, if you think about, am I going to make an investment? They have made investments. They have worked with the likes of an Accenture, a Deloitte, a McKinsey, a BCG, etc. Paid so much money for a lot of strategy. So much documents. You pay millions of dollars for so much documents. I give you the blueprint in terms of how to make sure that your business is going to transform. But the challenge is not in the document. The challenge is in the execution. So, in other words, the time to realize the value is not when a large global solutions provider, a systems integrator, is able to submit the blueprint. But the fastest time to realize the value is when you start executing on this blueprint. And that's where we feel we have a differentiation on. This last one, of course, the non-availability and high attrition of cloud users, so cloud technologies in an organization. Back in Google, I would always get complaints and comments from customers, pretty great technology, but I don't know where to hire the person. I don't even know where to get that person. So one of the regular comments I get, accept the fact that there's going to be a 30% attrition on technology, and accept the fact that this person that they've actually been training will probably move somewhere else, if not in the Philippines, in one of their competitors. So you really have to create that engine of competency and knowledge within your organization. For us, this is where we come in. The way we deliver things is not, let me deliver to you the solution and thank you and goodbye. The way we deliver things is we do a lot of co-delivery, which means we enable your organization to understand how we've actually built this. In the same process, you'll learn value osmosis. So, as I said, we provide an end-to-end solution, and I think Yash was able to clearly show that in terms of our practices. We focus on a quicker time to value. That's why there's a business outcome if you want to be aligned one. We offer a differentiated delivery model, outcome-based models in terms of our engagements, like what Yash presented a while ago, is one of those practices. We are a multi-cloud service provider. Most organizations have already embraced the fact that I will not be stuck in one tech only. I would like to take advantage of the best tech that I can get in the market, the strength of an Azure, the strength of a GCP, and the strength of a AWS in my organization. So that is the vision of a multi-cloud. But most organizations are actually multiple cloud. In other words, they still build practices based on the cloud adoption that they want. A multi-cloud scenario is that I'm able to ingest and get all of these services and manage it in a single pane. And that's what we offer. We kind of abstract the technology and make sure that we can tell you, yes, you're using cloud, but don't think about how, don't put so much burden in terms of the management and the operations. We'll do that for you. And of course, we offer the best talent. I think Yash presented this also. Our talent pool is right now is based in India. We're also working on building, I think that's one of my biggest marching orders since I joined Sears. Hire the best resources, so hire the best talent, because we would like to definitely build a delivery center in the Philippines. But this global delivery center model allows us to tap into talent. We've actually done this in other companies, for other companies worldwide. So for example, like if a customer approaches me that, Ferdy, I want a solution that will help me come out with the best loyalty program for a retail organization, I can just tap into this talent. Who has done this before? And I'm sure we have done it for one company in the US, EMEA, Australia, something we've done worldwide. Just some of the accolades, and I think for this one thing that I'm really excited is our specialization for generative AI coming from Google Cloud. There are only 6 companies in the world who's actually specialized on this. The four other companies are actually global SIs. It's like of an Accenture and a Deloitte. They have the money, they have the resources, they have the muscle to quickly build this. The two other companies is companies like Sears. Of course, we're one of those six. And we're the only one in the region who's actually specialized on this. So what does it mean being specialized on Gen AI? It's not about the technology only, but when you do execute on Gen AI services, there's so much questions about the security. There's so much questions about the privacy. There's so much questions about the responsive AI. Is it ethical? And those are the things that we have to go through when we think about these specializations. Like what Yash mentioned, we've been here since 2021. Just the growth in terms of how we are actually building this market. So we're not greenhorns in terms of the industry. Our biggest customer right now is there. It's Globe Telecom. We're doing so much work inside Globe Telecom regardless if it's software engineering, data, infrastructure, etc. We've done, by the way, I used to also be with SM. So we've done the SM customer data platform. So if you're thinking about loyalty programs, being able to do right targeting, those are the things we're actually able to deliver. So yeah, so we're pretty much, I would say, build the credibility in the market, but I think we still have a lot of opportunity to grow this business. Just some of our logos. And with that, ends my presentation. Again, maraming salamat for being with us this morning. I truly appreciate it, and I hope to catch up with all of you within the day, within this morning. Again, maraming salamat, turning over back.
All right.